she played Saturday. I'm just like, Satan, go away. And when she was starting to have come on Wednesday, just go away.
Mm-hmm. Let's see if we can get some people on here. Well, howdy, if you're watching later, this is week 6. We're going to be starting in Genesis 5. Got a few more minutes until go time. We'll probably do 5 and 6 at least. 5's. It seems like it'd be kind of boring because it's a bunch of genealogy. But there's some hidden gems in there. We'll see. So it ought to be fun. Oh, we got 5 people watching. All right, y'all, 5 people watching. You get on here and get in the group so you can talk to us. We need some more people to talk to. I'm supposed to have my buddy Eric. Of course, he may be in bed. He's in Uganda, so he may be in bed by now. I was shocked the first time he came in here. I was like, dude, you know you gotta sleep sometime. Well, we're actually started on our, because we do that daily morning thing on X. We started going through Genesis on there
What
too.
is X?
Twitter.
Oh.
Twitter. Yeah, formerly Twitter. X.
Okay.
The website that used to be called Twitter. These people still call it Twitter, but yeah, they got these things. It's all audio, like rooms, kind of like what we're doing here, where people can turn on mics and all. You can talk and have discussions. But we do a daily thing at 7:30 in the morning. And we're going through Genesis now, a chapter a day.
It's funny because in the little Bible study books that Sandra bought for the kids,
Yeah.
it's going through Genesis.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
It seems to be
Genesis is everywhere.
It seems to be, yeah. There's a lot of people I've seen online too that are like on the X stuff. They're doing a Genesis readings and stuff, and I'm like, maybe God's trying to say, hey, you go back to the beginning, get to the basics.
Well, I mean, I think it's a good idea because, I mean, it's stuff that, I mean, that's the one book I can say that I have completely read, and it's stuff that apparently went
Yeah.
right over my head, so I'm like, okay, did I miss that?
Oh yeah. Every time I read any of the Bible, it's like something new pops out. It's like, oh wow, just
And then I guess I'm saying it probably depends on where I was in my walk. You know, probably was just like reading, not like really like
That's
reading
just,
and thinking.
Oh, what was it yesterday? Because we started Saturday or Friday. I think we started Friday on Genesis 1. Or we started Thursday with like an intro, just kind of just give an intro for Genesis. And then Friday was 1 and 2. Saturday, I think Saturday morning, I was just reading through it and just kind of commenting as I was reading through, and it just new things just popped in my. It's like, oh wow.
I'm at church for Bible study.
Tell me, come on.
Going through the Bible. You want to come since you didn't go to work?
Come on, Destiny. I know it's you. Come on, Destiny. Come on, girl. I can hear the. I sent the link out to the church. I know you got it.
All right. Hurry up. All right,
There's my wife.
she said, I just got home. She said, but I'm going to come since I didn't come Wednesday.
Is she coming?
She said she was.
Okay.
Let's see.
Where y'all live at? Y'all live right on the road?
Conley.
Okay.
It'll take about 15 minutes.
All right.
At
Cool.
minimum.
At minimum. Well, good. I'm glad she's making the effort. That's good. All right. So I guess we'll start her up. And if anybody else comes in, they come in. I'm going to keep an eye on this because I think I missed some people that were down below like last time. Because it only shows like on my bar right here, it only shows like 5 people, and then it goes down. And I totally missed people, I think, that were on.
It is what it is. That's what we get for not being on time.
Yeah, exactly. Show up on time. Or...
It didn't hurt my feelings. I still got the lesson.
Yes, exactly. I didn't see you were there. Exactly. You were the one of them. I had no idea you were there until later. I was like, oh, Dilla's on there. Wow, cool. All right, well, let's just pray real quick and start it up. Father God, thank you for everything. Thank you for being the author and creator of everything we know, and even the things we don't know. Lord, just guide us. Send your Holy Spirit upon us to just show us what you want us to hear as we read through your scriptures. And let us speak to our hearts in each in an individual, personal way. And let us share with each other insights we have as you speak to our hearts, and just let everything I say and each of us say and bring forward be just to glorify you and be speaking truth, Lord. Don't let us say anything that's not true and disrupt other people from their faith or anything. We want to pray all these things in Christ's name. Amen. All right. So we are in chapter 5. And got me a message. My mom said thank you. Hopefully my mom will come on here too. That'd be cool. She might just be watching. All right. Well, let's get it. Anybody want to read chapter, as far as you want to, in chapter 5?
The blind will try to read.
The blind Dilla's going to try to read.
All right. This is the written account of Adam's line. When God created man, he made him in the likeness of God. He created them, male and female, and blessed them. And when they were created, he called them man. When Adam had lived 130 years, he had a son in his own likeness, in his own image, and he named him Seth. After Seth was born, Adam lived 800 years and had other sons and daughters. Altogether, Adam lived 930 years, and then he died. When Seth had lived 105 years, he became the father of Enosh. And after he became the father of Enosh, Seth lived 807 years, and he had other sons and daughters. Altogether, Seth lived 912 years, and then he died. When Enosh had lived 90 years, he became the father of Kenan.
Yeah, Kenan.
And after he became the father of Kenan, Enosh lived 815 years, and he had other sons and daughters. Altogether, Enosh lived 905 years, and then he died. When Kenan had lived 70 years, he became the father of, how do you say that name?
Mahalalel.
Yeah, that
Mahalalel.
And after he became the father of Mahalalel,
Mahalalel.
Kenan lived 840 years, and he had other sons and daughters. Altogether, Kenan lived 910 years, and then he died. When Mahalalel had lived 65 years, he became the father of Jared. And after he became the father of Jared, he lived 830 years, and he had other sons and daughters. Altogether, I'm just going to call him, he lived 895 years, and then he died. When Jared lived 162 years, he became the father of Enoch. And after he became the father of Enoch, Jared lived 800 years and had other sons and daughters. Altogether, Jared lived 962 years, and then he died. When Enoch had lived 65 years, he became the father of
Methuselah. Yeah.
And he became the father of Methuselah. Enoch walked with God 300 years and had other sons and daughters. Altogether, Enoch lived 365 years. Enoch walked with God, and then he was no more because God took him away. When Methuselah, say it again?
Methuselah, yes.
Methuselah had lived 187 years. He became the father of Lamech. And after he became the father of Lamech, Methuselah I did not say that right.
Methuselah.
lived 782 years and had other sons and daughters. After Methuselah lived 969 years, and then he died. When Lamech had lived 182 years, he had a son, and he named him Noah. And he said, "He will comfort us in labor and painful toil of our hands caused by the ground the Lord has cursed." After Noah was born, Lamech lived 595 years and had other sons and daughters. Altogether, Lamech lived 777 years, and then he died. After Noah was 500 years old, he became the father of Shem, Ham, and
Japheth.
Okay, that one.
Yeah. All right. So
a lot of years. How does people
all right.
live that long?
So if you're just reading straight through this, that's pretty boring, right? Just like, okay, it's a genealogy. It's a history of. You know,
they never list a female. They never list the name of a female.
Yeah, it goes by the father line.
All through there.
Yeah, it goes by the father's line. Yeah, it's a. I mean, because you know,
they said they had sons and daughters, but they never list.
Never hardly list the daughters. Sometimes they'll pop in daughters because there's something significant about them, but mostly it's a man dominion kind of thing. So, here's a little interesting fact. You know, if you looked at those Bibles, some of those may be, like if you look in the front, you'll see a lot of those, especially the older Bibles, they'll have like the genealogy, like you can put in your own genealogy, you know, record people's marriages and births and things like that. Did you know that used to be like legal binding in court? Like those family histories that, like if someone passed away, talking about inheritance and things like that, you brought your Bible, you brought your family Bible to church, to the court, and that was like court record, because before we had, you know, everybody being, you know, recorded on births, because a lot of people were born at home, you know, they weren't going to the hospital and all, so that's where you recorded everything. That's where you recorded deaths, that's where you recorded births, that's when you recorded the marriages and showed the, you know, people being married and the two families coming together, and it's an important thing for our history and for legality and everything else. I thought it was pretty interesting that's pretty much what we're doing here. We're showing the family lineage of Adam through here, right? And showing all the way up to Noah. And what's interesting about another interesting aspect of this, I mean, I'm sure you've seen the years, right? That they lived 900 years, 770 years, 800 and something years.
Yes, it was like
it's crazy amount of time.
Was time done in a different way back then?
Well, there's some speculation about time being. There was speculation about it being like months and not years, but that doesn't really add up because some of them would be 5 years old and they'd be having their first child. So that doesn't really make sense. But we did talk about, when we went through Genesis 1, how the firmament. Remember the firmament in Genesis 1? Let's go to Genesis. Let me do Bible Gateway. Genesis. You know what? I'll do it over here. Let's just go back to Genesis 1, I think. There are 9. Genesis 1:9, and God said, "Let the waters under the heavens be gathered together into one place, and let the dry land appear." And it was, God called the dry land earth, and the waters that had gathered together he called the seas. And God saw it was good, and God said, "Let the earth sprout vegetation." Where is the firmament thing? The spear of God was hovering over the... I'm trying to find where it says... Okay, right here is 6. And God said, "Let there be an expanse in the midst of the waters, and let it separate the waters from the waters." And the God made an expanse and separated the waters that were under the expanse from the waters that were above the expanse. And it was so. remember, if you remember back that first day, we were talking about how the idea that it didn't really rain, that we had the thick cloud cover. This is what some scientists think. You know, they had this thick cloud cover which would block radiation. These are speculations. This is extra biblical stuff, right? This is just out there extra biblical stuff, but just trying to make sense of the long ages. And plus, the corruption of the fall, we see maybe that with that corruption of the fall and the corruption of the earth, and over time, the mutation, you know, as the genetics become weaker and weaker and those kind of things, maybe more mutations, and that would lessen the amount of time we're living and stuff like that. But anyways, if you had the right environment before the fall, before the flood, these guys were living an extra amount of time. It was just a perfect environment, perfect genetics, you know. So they were living an extra long amount of time. And what's cool about these long ages, we take this literally and say if they're living this long, then Noah would have been able to talk to the grandsons of Adam, even though it was a long time, you know, because they lived so long that the birth of Noah, I think it was like 14 years between the death of Adam and the birth of Noah, is where the math works out. So, as far as Noah, knowing these things and seeing these things, it was that little bit of time that he could have continued that message on for the future. So that's pretty cool, because he had to be the one to carry on, because everything's wiped off, right? So he's going to be the one that's going to have to carry on the message to the future of what happened in the past. So that he actually got at least third hand from his grandsons of what happened. And there's another cool thing about this long life stuff, that the mathematically, if Adam, from his creation, his birth, you know, of whatever age he was at the time of his birth until his death, that even if only half his kids had kids, and half of his kids died, and only half of his kids married, and only half of those kids actually had kids, that he would have theoretically had over 1 million kids before he died.
Wow.
Or a million you know, with the generations and all that came from him and all that. So that's pretty wild. Anyways, that's just interesting stuff there. So let me go back to 5. We got somebody here.
What about, did the Lord or Jesus or God say that 120 was going to be?
We'll get to it.
Okay.
Yeah. There he is.
Hey.
What's going on, buddy? We got a little small group now, ain't we? Feeling a little better than it was before. All right. Well, good. So we got 4 now. Wow. And your daughter's coming?
She says she was. We'll see.
All right. We'll see. Hey, there's Eric. We got buddy Eric on here. Yay.
Okay, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Or a thought.
Yes, ma'am.
Because I'm reading the Enduring Word app. The Genesis 5.
Yes.
And B, it says, like we read in the Bible, and God called them mankind, the human race, mankind, was given the name man by God from the beginning. It is not sexist nor gender-based, biased, to call the human race by the general heading mankind, because God does this.
Okay.
Is this where these funny people are twisting this, that they can identify as cats, dogs, men, women? I mean, I'm just saying. was like, I mean, how did they come
Well,
to the assumption that, that's okay?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where they get that from, because from this account, there's two sexes that both came from one Adam, which means, mankind. Basically, it means it doesn't mean, we call him Adam, but it's Adam. It just means, I think it's rooted from the red earth, if I'm not, without looking it up, but it means from the earth. It means it's created from earth. It has so much depth to the actual name of it, but it's the name of humanity. It's human. Mankind, human would probably be a better word as far as labeling it. It just means human. So, yeah, when we get the different sexes and sexism and all that, it's not. It's just going, because you got to remember, God created the human. He created the human, and I've got my own weird ideas about that. He created Adam. He created the human, and then he took from that human, which was, a complete image of him, and he separated that, took from him, from his side, and created woman. And I kind of had my mind, this is not, do not take this as theological realness, but in my mind, this is the way I see it, is this Adam had all the genes. He was the image of God as much as possible in the man form, and so he had a complete genome. He had all the genes, including all that goes along with being either or. So I don't want to say anything like that, and then he took from that and separated, and there's a lot of ancient creation stories that go like that, where it's one just basically creature, human, and then they separate it out into two, and that's why when you come back together, you become one again, right? Because you're two parts of the image of God. You both have male and female. You are equal, but you are separate by the characters of God that you carry. Like the motherly side of the love and things like that, the nurturing, the caring, the life giver, the creator, is in the woman, right? But the authoritarian, the dominion, the creator, as in building things and creating things with his hands and stuff like that. The sacrificial love, the laying down his life for his family, all those things are kind of in the man, right? The fighting, the aggressive side of God is in the man. So we have both sides of that come together. Hey, you want to give her some room there? Destiny! What's going on? You don't need to go home and go to sleep. We're here. Why does nobody have a picture? I want to see people. Nobody's want to show their face today. I'm glad you made it.
Me too.
Glad you made it. So we're talking about Adam. All right. So, and we may not get through 5 at this rate, but even though it's just a genealogy, huh? But that's okay. We can go slow. Okay, so this book was the book of generations of Adam. When God created man, he made him in his likeness of God. Male and female, he created them and blessed them, and he named them man. When they were created, so it's mankind, right? Just human. When Adam lived 130 years, he fathered a son of his own, in his own likeness, after his image, and named him Seth. What do you see there in that? He created them in his own image. He fathered a son in his own image. And this is significant. He's putting in those words in that way. Moses is writing this in this certain way to give us a theological thing here. And if you got enduring word, It's got notes on that somewhere in all that. There's a lot of notes. If we go through that, it'll take us 18,000 years. Because he breaks it down. I love Guzik. He's good. He breaks it down, definitely. But God created man in His own image, right? So, and when He created him, like I said, He was perfect. There's only been 2 sinless men on the planet Earth. Adam and Jesus. When they
or God.
So that's the 2 humans that were born perfect, and Jesus remained perfect. He was the better Adam, right? The better son of man, son of God. Adam fell. He couldn't hold the line. So with that fall, when he fathered Seth here, Moses is pointing out, he fathered a son in his own likeness.
Well, when God made Adam, He made him perfect
Mm-hmm.
in His own image. When Adam made Seth, He made him. He wasn't perfect anymore.
That's right. That's exactly. Yeah.
So He made him in His own image, but it was imperfect.
Mm-hmm. Yes. That's exactly the point we're getting to. Yes. that imperfect, that fallenness, that sin nature was carried on. This is why this is put there, written like this. When He fathered him, He made him in His own image, not in God's. Now, He fathered him not in God's image anymore. It was in Adam's fallen nature, fallen image, that Seth was conceived. So that's one thing I wanted to highlight there. Besides the ages, and then we got another cool idea. The cool aspect of this is let's just skip down to Methuselah, 25. Or actually in 27, thus all the days of Methuselah was 969 years. And then he died. Methuselah, there's an idea that, okay, so Methuselah, that's the most amount of years we have recorded in the Bible of someone living. But if you take Adam, he lived 930 years. How old was he when he was created? What age did he have when he was created and put here on the earth? So he
0.
we was 0, but he had everything that God created him just popped here on it when He created the earth. It had an age to it. Adam was an adult male. He was all these, when in the creation account in chapter 1. We see that the plants were put here with the seeds. The man was put here with his seed. The woman was put here with her seed, with her eggs and everything. Everything fully formed, ready to go, ready to bear fruit and multiply. So, how old was he when he got here? As far as
0.
Yeah.
And it says Adam lived 135 years and begot Seth.
Mm-hmm.
But Adam started at what you and I would consider, I don't know, how the ages back in those days, he was 135 years old before he had his first son. So,
well, think about, hold on. Adam and Eve had who first?
Yeah.
So this is later. So, you gotta look at these genealogies also. They're not accounting for all the children. They're just counting for significance.
Yeah,
people
right. But
in this genealogy.
Back to what you were saying, is how old was Adam when he was created?
Mm-hmm.
And he started at 0, just like a newborn.
Yeah.
Not that he was a newborn, like a newborn, what we think of as a newborn child, a baby.
Mm-hmm.
Adam missed that part. But
Yeah.
he was still started off.
Yeah, but the point I was trying to say is maybe Methuselah may not have really been it depends on how old, how much age was built into Adam when he was put here. He may not have been the oldest. I don't know, but let's go. You got the enduring word up?
Mm-hmm.
check out this where it talks about Methuselah, and that name, Methuselah.
Where's it at? From Jared to Methuselah. What's the first one I see?
Methuselah lived, I'll probably get ahead.
I know.
He lived till they shut the door on the ark and then he died, didn't
Exactly.
he? I think.
Exactly. The name of his name, maybe I can find it on here if you can't find it quick enough.
Yeah, the only thing I see, unless I'm not going down far enough.
He may not even said it in here.
From Jared to Methuselah. Jared lived 162 years. And begot Enoch. After that, Enoch lived Jared.
The name. Okay, here it is. After he begot Methuselah, Enoch walked with God. It seems Enoch began to walk with God in a special way after the birth of Methuselah. The name Methuselah means, when he is dead, it shall come.
Where are you reading that at, sir?
Down here in this section, I don't know. It's off the enduring word thing. I don't know. I know it's hard to keep track on that thing. That's why I'm not going step by step on this, because it's way too much information. We don't want to get. I mean, way too much.
Okay, we'll carry on.
So when he is dead, it shall come. Now to back up with Enoch, right? Back here in 21, when Enoch lived 65 years, he fathered Methuselah. Enoch walked with God. After he fathered Methuselah 300 years and had other sons and daughters, thus all the days of Enoch were 365 years, which is kind of short. That's all he lived. So he's middle-aged, right?
Right.
Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. Doesn't say he was. This is the only account. Everybody else died. Everybody else, God told Adam after the fall that he would bring death, that he would die, and he warned him before he took from the fruit, before he sinned, before he disobeyed, that he would die. It would bring death, and all these other had died, but Enoch was just taken in some way by God. He got the skip, he didn't have to go to jail. Do not pass go, collect your $200 kind of thing.
Him and Elijah was only two, wasn't it?
Yeah. So it's in this walked with God. He had this special relationship with God, walking with God in his life. Even back then, before he had written, the written word, before he had the evidence of Jesus, before he had any of that, he had enough faith and enough to righteousness or whatever to be walking with God enough and had a relationship with God that God just said, "I'm taking you on with me." That's pretty amazing stuff. And he was evidently a prophet. And we do have the book of Enoch. I think it's in the Apocrypha and all. And it's not biblical. It's not canonical. Where did she go? I dropped her. She dropped down. But it was a really hot topic during the time of Christ, when Christ was on the earth. That's why they quoted a lot. A few times Paul quoted, or I think Jude quoted Enoch. But it was a writing around that time. It wasn't an ancient writing. There was a lot of talk about Enoch, and because he's in the Bible, and talk about him just disappearing and all. So the writings of the book of Enoch were not ancient. Were not historically ancient. They were written, much later, and so that's why they're not canonical. And it's almost like if you anybody ever read Book of Enoch or messed around with it at all? Yeah, and it's almost like a retelling of the Genesis accounts and all. It adds a lot of the Nephilim stuff, and which we'll see in a little bit before the flood and all. And it's a cool story. It's and has Azrael or whatever instead of Satan. It has this other demon guy character and stuff. It's pretty wild stuff. But anyways, so he's a prophet, and then he names his kid. So something happened with this kid after he had this kid, and maybe God started speaking to him at this point and told him to name his kid this thing, that when he dies, this is going to be over. So the coming of the Lord, a day of the Lord, kind of like we have with our prophecies now. Maybe there's something like that that Enoch was told. So he names his kid this, and we see in a little bit that when he dies, that's when this flood is coming. So, all right. So, verse 28. And when Lamech lived 182 years, he fathered a son and called him Noah. So this is where Noah comes from, saying, "Out of the ground that the Lord has cursed, this one shall bring us relief from our work and from the painful toil of our hands. And oh boy, will he bring them relief." Because there will be, everybody will be wiped out. It's a pretty horrible thing. But with this, this naming of Methuselah, with that significance of that, you have this prophet Enoch. There's the idea that these people knew. These people had prophets, people telling them, this is coming. This is, and that when this guy dies, I'm sure it was around everywhere, old Methuselah, when he finally passes away, it's it. And he probably made jokes about it and laughed about it and just, whatever. Now we got Noah out here building an ark. This is pretty funny. They probably make it because so many years went by. I mean, think about 1,000 years, basically, is what this guy lived. And how much faith would they have to keep over the generations or whatever to be able to...
Who was that lived 1,000 years?
Methuselah lived 969 years. It's almost 1,000 years. So thus all the days of Lamech were 777 years, and he died. And I think that's pretty... there's some significance. I don't know exactly what that significance is with that 777, but that as far as the Jewish Hebraic idea, 7 is the number of perfection, of completion, and for that triple sevens, being the son of Lamech, maybe that was the completion. This is it. This is the completion of mankind at this point. There was going to be no more generations after this kind of thing, right? He was going to have his son, and that's it. That's it. So after Noah was 500 years, Noah fathered Shem, Ham, and Japheth, which would be carried over into the new world, right? All right. So anybody want to read on for chapter 6 as far as they feel like it? I guess let's go to just the first 8 verses. We'll look at that.
When men began to increase in numbers on the earth, and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of men were beautiful, and they married. Any of them they chose. Then the Lord said, "My spirit will not contend with man forever, for he is mortal. His days will be 120 years."
Mm-hmm.
The
Nephilim. It's Nephilim.
Nephilim was on the earth in those days, and also afterwards, when the sons of God went to the daughters of men and had children by them. They were the heroes of old, men of renown. The Lord saw how great man's wickedness on the earth had become, and endless on the earth had become, and that every inclination of the thoughts of his heart were only evil all the time.
Mm-hmm.
The Lord was grieved that he had made man on the earth, and his heart was filled with pain. So the Lord said, "I will wipe mankind whom I have created from the face of the earth, men and animals and creatures that move along the ground and birds of the air, for I am grieved that I have made them. But Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord.
Mm-hmm. But Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord. Yep. All right. So there's a whole lot here. Unlike chapter 5, where it's just, a lot of genealogy. You're going to have to dig to find stuff. So when man began to multiply on the face of the earth. So during these days, the rapid population expansion, especially because of the long lifespans in the pre-flood world, like we talked about, Adam would have seen like 1 million kids and grandkids and great-grandkids, on and on and on. Just think about my grandmother. She's 93, and she's got the greats. She's a great-great-grandmother. She's seen like 5, 6, I don't know, lots of generations already. And she's got, I don't know how many generations of kids. I mean, how many kids? I think it's in like the 50s or something. Her kids were 4, and then from her kids were like 12 or what? I don't know exactly the math, but and then their kids are having a bunch of kids, so it's a bunch. It's a bunch of kids. Just think about living 10 times that. How many, and that snowball effect of multiplication, the exponential, because as it goes, it gets exponential. That bell curve goes, woof, it goes skyrocketing. So, yes, there's a huge expansion of people, especially with the longevity of people living. They could just multiply like crazy. I think rabbits are bad now. I mean, mankind was like rabbits. Okay, so the sons of God saw the daughters of men. Many have believed that the sons of God were those from the line of Seth, and the daughters of men were from the line of Cain. And this describes an intermarriage between the godly and ungodly, something God specifically prohibits. But this approach leaves many unanswered questions. Why did this make God angry enough to wipe out almost all the earth's population? Why was there something unusual about the offspring of this unions? The idea that these were believers marrying unbelievers doesn't seem to fit the record of the text. Okay. So we got the idea, and this is where, if you get into the book of Enoch, in that writing, it kind of gives you the idea of actually angels, the fallen angels, somehow making out with the natural women and having these super offspring, like hybrid human angel things that were the giants, of the day, kind of like David and Goliath with the giant stuff. It's those giants were supposed to be these Nephilim. That's what these Nephilim were these hybrid creatures that were an abomination for So we don't really know exactly, but this seems pretty wild and crazy. So the phrase "sons of God" clearly refers to angelic creatures when it was used the 3 other times in the Old Testament. In Job 1:6, 2:1, and 38:7. Translators of the Septuagint translated "sons of God" as angels. Those ancient translators clearly thought sons of God referred to angelic beings, not to people descended from Seth. Then he goes on to where Jude talks about the angels, tells us of angels who did not keep their proper domain, but left their own habitation. In Jude 1:6, and the angels who did not keep their proper domain, but left their own abode, he has reserved in everlasting chains under darkness for the judgment of the great day. So, something bad was going on. We don't know exactly. There's lots of speculation, lots of different theories, just like the creation story. There's lots of... God was not happy. It got bad. Things were terrible. So much so, and he saw that the longevity of man was a bad thing. because we just got more and more corrupt as we lived on and on. And think about that too. As we learn more and more and more, like we imagine having 1,000 years of just being in our own heads, and how much thinking and how convoluted things might get over that time period. I can see that being a problem. So this is where you get the cap of 120 years, right? And it makes sense with the idea of the firmament falling with the flood, that we have this huge, massive water in the atmosphere, basically like an ocean in the atmosphere, protecting, keeping the radiation away. You would still have light because it would come through the water sphere or whatever. And then all of a sudden God just says, drop it. And just drops all that water at one time on the earth, floods everything. And then all the water from the ground coming up as well.
Well, it never rained on Earth. It never had
Yeah,
rained on Earth.
exactly. It's like, so everything just falls, all rain just floods everything and just wipes everything out, kills everything. And which would also, if that's true, that it never really rained, that's my kind of the idea too, is it never really rained. That's why you didn't have the rainbow thing, and that's why the rainbow was a significant covenant, because this is the first time everybody's seen it. It's like, oh wow, what is this? This is pretty miraculous. Think about the first time you seen a rainbow when you was a kid. It's like, it's pretty amazing, right? So they have this covenant of that God would never do this again, and that kind of ties that together, that this was the first time it rained. And it also makes sense for these people not to understand. It's like, well, what are you talking about? What we're not going to flood. Everything's perfect. We got water just being supplied by streams and by the dew during the day, during the night, coming and watering the plants for us. But, this thing's pretty illogical that everything's going to flood all of a sudden. So, the Nephilim, that's that magic giants called the sons of God, who bore children by the daughters of man. Okay, so these were the mighty men. And this is put in here too. This right here did in the verse 4. These were the mighty men who were of old, the men of renown. And I think this is put in here for the reason of telling about when you see giants, you see those kind of creatures, those kind of huge, massive combatants. These are remnants of these Nephilim. So the Lord saw the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and every intention and of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. So every intention. So it got so bad that every thought, everything, just was nothing but corruption and destruction and evil of man in general. And that's pretty bad. and it seems like we can't kind of getting close to that today, right? As far as our culture and our world in general, that the intentions are just like you were talking about earlier about just going completely away from creation with the not even knowing what gender we are and things like that. Yeah, you be whatever you want. Whatever you can dream up, that's what you are. No consequences, no responsibility, no accountability, no just all about me and whatever I dream up and feel like I am. It's a kind of a mirroring to what we see today, really. What we see, I don't know.
Well, they never talked about anybody from the beginning to now that found any favor in God. You think Abel found favor in the eyes of the Lord? Abel was he was trying to do what was right, but
Yeah, I mean, well, I think it just got to where just there was so much of it. Kind of like with Sodom and Gomorrah, where Abraham is just pleading with God, saying, "Well, if you can find 50, if you can find 40, or you can find 10, even,"
Right.
and God's like, "Okay, cool. If I can find 10 they're worthy, that love me, whatever, that aren't just completely corrupted, then I won't destroy it. You can't even find one." It's like, and that's kind of the situation on the earth with millions and millions of people at this point, that they were just so corrupt. And then, we'll see the Tower of Babel time. It happens again. Even after he resets them and he does, gets them all good again, then people still, they become so corrupt and want to be all about themselves and celebrate themselves that they build a tower to show how awesome they are, and it was the heart behind that was what made it so bad. And then he has to split them up and cast them out, or disperse them around the world. So it's a continual thing, condition of man, right? But Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord. So for some reason, he was a good guy. He was evidently connected to God enough that he was, and it's prophetic too, because of the Methuselah thing, and Enoch being of that generation. So we see that too, that theme of God using through the different generations, through certain families, to fulfill prophecy all the way to Jesus, right? What?
I was saying I need large print.
We may have a bigger, that one
No,
there.
I'm good. I was making a
okay.
funny joke. I'm good.
I got the largest print. I can get as big as I need to on this computer. That's why I like it. Where did everybody go? Uh-oh. Why is everybody dropping off? I don't know what happened to them.
Are we boring
Okay.
them?
Huh?
I said, are we boring them?
No, I think they're dropping down. Maybe internet connections or something. If you get a phone call or something, you have to go do that, then come back, and they'll drop you now. There's Eric. He's back. There's Melanie back. All right. So, anybody want to go from 9 to, I guess, to the end?
This is the genealogy of Noah. And Noah was a just man. In his generations, Noah walked with God. Mm-hmm. Noah begot 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. The earth also was corrupt before God, and the earth was filled with violence. Mm-hmm. So God looked upon the earth, and indeed it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted their way on the earth.
That's my dog.
That's the dog. Hello, dog.
And God said to Noah, the end of all flesh has come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them. Mm-hmm. And behold, I will destroy them with the earth. Make yourself an ark of gopher wood, and make rooms in the ark, and cover it inside and outside with pitch. And this is how you should make it. The length of the ark shall be 300 cubits, its width 50 cubits, and its height 30 cubits. You can make a window for the ark, and you shall finish it to a cubit from above, and set the door of the ark in its side. You shall make it with lower, second, and third decks. And behold, I myself am bringing floodwaters on the earth to destroy from under heaven all flesh, in which is the breath of life. Everything that is on the earth shall die. But I will establish my covenant with you, and you shall go into the ark, you, your sons, your wife, and your sons' wives with you. And of every living thing of all flesh you shall bring 2 of every sort into the ark, to keep them alive with you. That shall be male and female. Of the birds after their kind, of animals after their kind, and of every creeping thing of the earth after its kind. 2 of every kind will come to you to keep them alive. You shall take for yourself of all food that is eaten, and you shall gather it to yourself, and it shall be food for you and for them. Thus Noah did according to all that God commanded him, so he did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's important too. Noah did. God said, do it, and he did it. That's an important lesson for all of us. If we don't take anything else, do what God tells you to do. Because the consequences could be the whole humanity is wiped off the planet. That's pretty extreme. So, what we see here in verse 9, these are the generations. So we got the he only has 3 sons here. Noah was a righteous man, blameless in his generation. What does that mean? No, we got Noah walked with God, which alludes back to Enoch, right? No, Enoch walking with God. So his grandpa walking with God. Noah followed the same suit. Or great grandpa, what was it? Great grandpa. So he walked with God also. But he was blameless in his generation. Look at that concept there of what that would mean. Any ideas? Any ideas online? I'm sorry, we haven't heard from y'all much. Nobody? Okay. Anybody want to shoot at it? Shoot in the dark at it?
I guess just saying really that he was obedient. He wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
He was just obedient to God and what God was telling him to do,
Mm-hmm.
and wasn't following the evil and the corruptness that the others were.
Yeah, so he's a righteous man. He's blameless in his generation, and theologically, is they think this is talking about like according to what revelation we have. Okay, like in our generation, to be blameless in our generation, we have so much knowledge, so much more depth. We have the entire scriptures that are as a resource. So we have no excuse, right? So to be blameless in this generation where it's completely corrupt, they don't have as much, they don't have the scriptures, they don't have, the abilities and so it doesn't say that, it doesn't mean that he was perfect, but he was blameless, in what he knew and what he could. And the same like with Enoch, that he walked with God. I think that's the main essential thing, is he walked with God. When you look at David, and though he did a lot of bad things, right? He slipped up a lot, but it was about he was still called the man after God's own heart. So it goes back to that heart and intention and heart of these guys. So he's blameless in his generation in the knowledge of what they had. You know what I mean? So even if we go back to like Adam and Eve before they took of the fruit, the idea that they didn't know they were naked, they didn't know that there was good and evil, so they were childlike. So they, before that, so they may have done things that would, that we may look on and say, oh, that's bad, but they wouldn't know it, so they would not be blamed. There wouldn't be any blame for that. You know what I mean?
There was no sin before the law.
Yeah. So.
Yeah,
No
I think.
Go ahead, bud.
I think what worry is like to be righteous is, if you look at verse 5, it says that these men had intentions of the thoughts of the heart was only evil continuously. So Noah's intentions were not evil continuously. So that was
Exactly.
counted for him to be righteousness, like to be holy before God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's saying when you look at verse 5, the Lord saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, of that every intention of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And Noah was different. And his heart was like David, heart, after God's own heart. So, now the earth was corrupt in God's sight, and the earth was filled with violence. And a little side note, what's that word, violence? You know what that word in Hebrew is? It's Hamas. Just let you know, it's Hamas. That's what it's not the same word as what the Hamas people say, but I like it. It's like, oh yeah, you see, you're violent. But it's Hamas is the Hebrew word for violence. Yeah, it's kind of prophetic. I think it's just like you see violence or wrath. I think it is in the Bible, in the Old Testament and all. That's Hamas. It's pretty awesome. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so God saw the earth, and behold, it was corrupt, for all the flesh had corrupted their way in the earth. And God said to Noah, I have determined to make an end of all flesh. For the earth is filled with violence, Hamas, through them. Behold, I will destroy them with the earth. Make yourself an ark and go forward. So he gives them dimensions. So that's pretty cool too. He gives them dimensions of, and we actually, that art museum thing where they built off with these dimensions a new ark. I haven't seen it myself personally. My kids have gone up there and seen it, but it's got to be a pretty cool sight to go see that. Have y'all been up there seen that?
I seen it.
You seen it?
I was impressed.
Yeah. It's pretty wild.
More impressed with creation.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's here in Georgia?
No, it's where's it at?
Kentucky, ain't it?
It's like Kentucky or something. I don't know exactly. I can look it up.
Oh, you don't have to look it up.
Yeah, we ought to go like a. No,
They built it by these dimensions.
Church trip.
church trip. I think it could be a church funded trip. Get fired. Oh,
Rent a van. Let's go.
let's rent a van. Yeah, that'd be awesome. Let's do it. Where is this at? Does it have the address?
We're number verse 12.
Petersburg, Kentucky. What you saying, brother?
We're in verse 12.
Oh yeah, we were looking up this place, this Creation Museum place. It's in Kentucky, Petersburg. What is that? What I say? Petersburg, Kentucky. Yeah. We need to do that. That'd be awesome. Let's do that, especially when we finish Genesis. When we finish Genesis in 2027, then we'll go. We'll start saving. We'll start saving now. Oh.
So reading on down in the enduring word,
Yes.
Word,
Yes.
it was talking about like with Noah, it was given the different books of the Bible, saying that according to all that God commanded him, so he did. And it says the Bible presents Noah as a great hero of God.
Mm-hmm.
He was an outstanding example of righteousness, a preacher of righteousness, and Noah condemned the world by offering salvation in the ark that the whole world rejected.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably why God showed him favor and put the task of building the ark on him. But unfortunately, it also says that even though he was a preacher of righteousness, in his 120 years of ministry, no one was ever saved.
Yeah, no one was ever. That's why I think it was a wide known, like the Methuselah thing, or the it's with his name, with Enoch being the prophet. I think this was prophesied for years and told to these people. They knew what was coming. They knew of the day of the the flood or the day of Noah or whatever they called it back then. They knew this was coming. Kind of like we have our day of the Lord coming. It's coming. We don't know exactly, but they knew. And just like with the first, the second coming, and then the of course, depending on your view of Revelations, but there's supposed, if you're a pre-trib, then you have the rapture, and then from that rapture time, you've got a certain amount of time, like 7 years, and you can count, or 3.5 or whatever, and then 3.5 after that, but you can count, like from that moment, you can count. So with Methuselah, they're like, okay, we don't know exactly when it's going to end, but whenever he dies, we better be right. We better be building our ark or whatever else. Or jumping on Noah's or whatever else. You know what I mean? And I don't think God speaks to just one person. Just like with Abram, he spoke to his father and told him to go. But his father only went so far and stopped. And we'll see that later too. And, I think God speaks to a lot of people all over the world, but only certain ones. The ones we hear about and make history are the ones that we're like, okay, God, I'm doing it. They're the ones that are, arise and go and do what he tells them to do. Noah was one of those that was like, I don't know what rain is. What are you talking about? You're gonna do what? You're gonna flood everything? And he just trusted God. He walked with God and believed him and started building this ark, which seemed insane to people. But it was all through their prophecies probably at the time, or at least a word of mouth saying, this is happening. This is coming. And we see that with Enoch. We see that with Methuselah. So these are all things that I'm learning too. I'm like, well, this is pretty cool stuff. I'm glad we're doing this. By the way, we're late. 7:04. That's okay. So let's finish this up. And then he says, okay, so he tells him, I'm going to bring the floods of waters upon the earth in 17, destroy all the flesh with his breath of life under heaven. Everything that is on earth shall die. So this is a day of the Lord kind of scenario, right? This is a judgment time. But I will establish my covenant with you. So this is a huge covenant right here, right? And all his family. And then we got in which I would love to go into detail about this, but we've talked about this before, about the importance, and I highlighted the kinds and sorts in purple through this last part of this chapter. Every time you see sort and kinds, depending on how your translation goes, those are important indications, scientific indications of how, the questions of how can he fit all these different kinds of animals. The idea is he didn't fit every single animal, every single breed. It was a kind. Like if it's a wolf, it's a canine, he got that kind. He got 2 of those. Alright? He got 2 of the certain kind of birds. Not all their different breeds and all, He didn't get like with the dogs. He didn't get the beagles. He didn't get the Dobermans. He didn't get the all the different shapes and sizes of the dogs. He got 2 wolves probably, because they're the main ones, right? So that's kind of the explanation scientifically of how you could actually fit all these animals on this boat of each kind, because it's scientifically by the kind, not saying that he got everything. Because you're restarting creation with Noah. You're restarting the earth with Noah. And remember in the beginning, in Genesis, the first couple chapters, God talks about he created these different creatures and brought them to Adam, and by their kind. He didn't, Adam didn't name every single kind of dog. He named dog. You know what I mean? Or he named wolf. He didn't name all the Dobermans and all these other kind of things. It was just those by the kind, by the class, So this is actually a scientific terminology that that Noah's using in here. I mean, not Noah, but Moses is using here. Yeah, the canines. It goes back to that scientific way of thinking, and it's specifically put there that way to show you that. Oh, okay. Because it's impossible. Yeah, it would be impossible to carry every especially if there's thousands of years that's gone by, then the divergence of the species have already started diverging like crazy. So they've got all kinds of kinds, you know what I mean? So you're not going to be able to get everything on there. So, and if you go to the Creation Museum, and go to their websites and stuff, they'll explain that kind of stuff much better than I could. But that's the idea behind that. So Noah did it, and he did all that God commanded, and that's probably the biggest lesson, is to do what God commands you to do, because you don't know how significant that is. Just being in rebellion and not doing something as simple that He tells you to do, or great that He tells you to do, it could have huge ramifications that you don't even realize, you know. So, all right, so we are done with 5 and 6. We're going to be going on to 7 next week, and it's good. Thank you, Destiny, for showing up. Steve. Awesome. And I appreciate y'all coming on. And Eric, get some sleep, man. What time is it there?
It's 18 minutes past 3 p.m. I mean past 3 a.m.
3 a.m. Woo! All right. Uganda.
Those other bands.
He's in Uganda.
Because Jay said that one that I ordered is going to be small.
All right. So who wants to? Eric, you want to pray? Close us out in prayer, sir.
Yeah, I wanted also to speak about Noah's preaching to the all living creatures. It wasn't easy.
Yeah.
Just imagine telling the dog, the dove, and everything that the world is going to come to an end, and you need to be safe in the ark.
Mm-hmm.
Then they also listen and present themselves to go into the ark. Yeah.
All right. Close us out, brother.
Okay, Heavenly Father, we thank you for today. I thank you for each person that has gathered here. We thank you for the Holy Spirit, because we cannot study the Bible by our own wisdom. But it is because of your Spirit that we are here. We thank the Holy Spirit that has been a minister, and we thank you, King of Glory Mighty, for everything that you have taught us today through your servant. We pray the blessing of Abraham and Isaac to fall into each person that has been here, and those who listen to the blessing, and those who listen to the recording. I release the blessing to them, those who are sick, those who are having any spiritual or physical problems. I pray that you heal them, you strengthen them, and next Sunday you expand us and increase us. In the name of Jesus Christ, the Son of the living God, be blessed.
Amen, brother. Appreciate it. All right. Thank you, sir. And I will end this thing. Oh, we got a couple comments. I missed those. Abigail was on here. Yay. And Mama Joe was on here. Yay. Cool. He has a fallen nature. Yes. Okay. All right. I missed all that. I missed the comments. All right. Well, thank you, guys. Love you. I'll see you next week. Bye. Thank you, Barbara.
Bye.